All right, let's get right into it. Have you ever noticed how some messages just land differently? They feel more credible, more official, right? Well, it turns out there's a powerful psychological trigger at play here, one that marketers use all the time to get us to act without even thinking. And today, we are pulling back the curtain on the authority principle. It all kicks off with a voice we hear constantly, especially in business and marketing. It's the voice of they. You've heard it a million times, right? They say you got to have multi-channel shoppers because they're more valuable, or they say a simple follow-up is going to boost your results. They say past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. But that begs the question, who exactly are they anyway? I mean, seriously, we base so many of our decisions on what this mysterious, all-knowing group tells us. So let's figure out who they really are. Well, it's pretty simple when you break it down. They are the experts, the trusted sources, the big names, the people and organizations we kind of outsource our thinking to. It's a mental shortcut, right? We instinctively trust that they've done the heavy lifting, the research, so we don't have to. And this whole instinct, it's all explained by a really core psychological concept. And that concept is called the authority principle. Basically, it's our built-in human tendency to listen to, believe, and, this is the important part, comply with people who look like they know what they're talking about. It means that sometimes who is saying something can be just as powerful as what they're saying. So why is this response so darn automatic? I mean, where does it come from? Well, turns out it's not something we just picked up as adults. Nope. This behavior has been baked into us since we were kids. Just think back for a second. From the moment we're born, it's our parents, then our teachers, our coaches, even the crossing guard on the street corner. Our whole world is built around respecting and, obeying authority figures. So by the time we're all grown up, it's not even a conscious choice anymore. It's just an automatic mental shortcut we take. And what's wild is how little it actually takes to flip this switch. I mean, check this out, 70%. This number comes from a study where an authority figure just made a polite request, but they gave a simple reason for it. And boom, the compliance rate shot up to 70%. That's a huge motivator. But just how far can it be pushed? Okay, to really get a handle on just how deep our obedience to authority goes, we have to look at one of the most famous and, frankly, one of the most unsettling psychological studies ever done. We're talking about the Stanley Milgram experiment. So picture this. It's the 1960s Yale University. The whole setup was pretty sneaky. People who signed up were told they were part of a study on memory and learning. Their job? They were the teacher, and they had to give electric shocks to a learner every time the learner got an answer wrong. But here's the twist. The learner was just an actor, and the shocks, they weren't real at all. So the teacher, the real person being studied, sits down in front of this big, imposing shock generator. And standing right there with them is a researcher in a stern-looking lab coat. He instructs them to just increase the voltage for every single mistake the learner makes. The pressure is on from the get-go. Now, this machine had 30 different switches, starting at what seemed like a pretty mild 15 volts. But the labels on this thing, they were specifically designed to create this rising sense of dread and danger. And then they hit 300 volts. And this is where things got really intense. The actor in the other room, the learner, would start screaming. He'd pound on the wall like he was in agony. And then, all of a sudden, just complete silence. So you'd think that's where it would stop, right? The screams, the silence. But no. The researcher in the lab coat would just calmly tell the participant to keep going. He'd say things like, "The experiment requires that you continue." Meanwhile, the labels on the shock machine were getting more and more terrifying. I mean, this machine went all the way up to 450 volts, and the participants were told that silence counted as a wrong answer, so they had to just keep delivering shocks all the way to the very last switch on the board. After danger, severe shock, the last two switches weren't even labeled with words. They were just marked with 3 X's, an unmistakable symbol for, well, you can imagine. So the real question was, would anyone actually go that far just because a guy in a lab coat told them to? The results were, honestly, they were staggering. A full 65% of the participants, these are just regular everyday people, mind you, they obeyed the authority figure and went all the way. They administered the maximum 450-volt shock. It's a really chilling look into human nature, right? It shows just how deeply programmed we are to follow authority, even when it goes against our own gut, our own conscience. Okay, so the Milgram experiment is obviously a super extreme example. But that underlying principle, that automatic obedience to authority, is a tool that marketers are using in much more subtle, but still incredibly effective ways every single day. So let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. Take this mutual fund company, for instance. They were having a heck of a time getting busy financial advisors to even visit their website, let alone register. You know, the standard marketing stuff, emails, flyers, it was all getting totally ignored. So they decided to try something completely different. They sent out a Snap Pack mailer. You know the kind I'm talking about? That really serious, official-looking envelope that you think has a W-2 or maybe a bank pin inside. And the result? It was absolutely mind-blowing. This official-looking mailer, with its short, no-fluff message, boosted their website registrations by a whopping 673%. It wasn't the message inside that did the work. It was the package itself. It just screamed authority. And here's what's so interesting. Authority doesn't have to be some famous expert on TV. It can be all about context. For example, an auto company found that emails about vehicle protection plans got a way better response when they came straight from the dealership where you bought the car. Why? Because in that one specific situation, who's the ultimate authority on your car? The dealer who sold it to you. So now that you see just how powerful this is, let's break down the actual tools marketers have in their toolkit to build this perception of authority. And I promise you, once you learn to spot them, you are going to see them absolutely everywhere. Okay, the source material boils it down to four main types. First, you've got authority figures. Think doctors, celebrity experts, that kind of thing. Then you have subject matter experts, like a big, respected organization or publication. Number three is uniforms. They're an instant visual shortcut. And finally, you have props. Things like diplomas hanging on a wall, a lab coat, or even just a sharp suit and tie. They all signal credibility. And all of that translates into a whole bunch of tactics you see constantly. Showing off awards and certifications, putting those little trust badges on a website, partnering up with a famous brand, using important-sounding titles like president or director, getting mentioned in the media. It's all part of the same playbook. It's all designed to build that aura of authority and get us to trust and comply. So, at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway here is that looking to experts is one of our most common, most powerful mental shortcuts. From the way an envelope looks to the title in someone's email signature, these little signals are everywhere, quietly steering our decisions. So the real question for you is, now that you know the toolkit, where are you going to see authority at play today?